Is moving to Florida the biggest financial mistake of your life? Beyond the brutal heat, a massive insurance crisis and a soaring cost of living are forcing families to abandon their palm tree dreams after just one season. If you are planning a move or you already made one, you need to see why the tropical allure is dissolving into a sensory and monetary overload, and why a record number of people are quietly packing their bags and heading back north. Section 1: The Mirage of the Endless Vacation. Picture this: no state income tax, year-round sunshine, white sand beaches 20 minutes from your front door. Affordable living compared to New York or California. For millions of Americans, that pitch sounded like a no-brainer. And during the COVID pandemic, they acted on it. Between 2020 and 2023, Florida became the single hottest destination in the entire country. Net domestic migration into the state exploded to over 310,000 people in a single year. Moving trucks were booked solid. Realtors were fielding 10 offers on the same house before the listing even went live. Florida was the dream, and everyone wanted in. Then summer arrived. Here is something the real estate brochure never tells you. Florida does not have a summer the way the rest of America has a summer. It has a 5-month endurance test that begins in late May and does not release its grip until October. The air temperature routinely sits in the mid-90s, but the actual temperature is almost beside the point. What breaks people is the humidity. When a high-pressure system parks over the Atlantic and kills the sea breeze, the heat index, the feels-like number, regularly climbs past 110 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not an exaggeration. That is a documented recurring reality. In July 2025, the National Weather Service recorded heat index values pushing above 115 degrees in parts of central Florida. At that level, stepping outside between 1 in the afternoon and 6 in the evening is not uncomfortable. It is genuinely dangerous. New residents describe the experience the same way, over and over. The first few weeks feel like an extended vacation. The pool is warm, the sunsets are beautiful, and the novelty of January without a coat has not worn off yet. Then June hits, then July. The air outside feels like the inside of a dryer. You stop going out, you stop using the backyard you paid a premium for. You realize that your entire life is now a commute between your air-conditioned house, your air-conditioned car, and your air-conditioned destination, and that the outdoor paradise you moved to is functionally inaccessible for half the year. That psychological shift from vacation brain to trapped brain is one of the most commonly reported experiences among people who leave Florida after their first full year. And it turns out that feeling of being trapped comes with a very real monthly price tag attached. Section 2: The Invisible Wall of Seasonal Isolation. The heat does not just make life uncomfortable, it rewires the entire cost structure of living in Florida in ways that most newcomers never see coming. Start with air conditioning. In most of the country, your AC runs hard for 2, maybe 3 months a year. In Florida, it runs for 8. It runs through April. It runs through November. On particularly brutal summer nights, when the outdoor temperature refuses to drop below 80 degrees and the humidity is sitting at 90%, your AC runs all night long without stopping. Florida residents consume more than double the national average in monthly kilowatt hours, because they have no choice. The system never gets a rest. As of late 2025, the average monthly electricity bill in Florida hit over $166 per month. In high-consumption households with older systems or poor insulation, that number climbs well past $300. Over the course of a year, that is a quiet $2,000 to $4,000 expense that nobody factored into their moving budget. Then there is what the heat does to your house. The combination of salt air, intense UV radiation, and relentless humidity accelerates the deterioration of everything. Roofs that would last 30 years in Ohio last 15 in South Florida. Exterior paint peels, wood rots, metal corrodes, air conditioning systems running at maximum capacity for months on end burn out faster than the manufacturer's warranty accounts for. The sunshine tax, the hidden premium of maintaining a home in a tropical climate, adds thousands of dollars per year in upkeep that never appeared in any cost of living calculator. And then the insects arrive. Florida's extended warm season means that mosquito season, love bug season, and palmetto bug season are not brief inconveniences. They are permanent features of life. Longtime residents barely notice anymore. New arrivals from Michigan or Minnesota do not have that immunity. The sensory assault of Florida's insect population, combined with the occasional iguana in the garden, the anole lizards on every wall, and the very real possibility of a black bear going through your trash, is enough to make some people pack up on their own. But none of that, not the heat, not the bugs, not the electricity bill, comes close to the financial gut punch that is waiting for new Florida homeowners the moment their first insurance renewal arrives. Section 3. The financial toll of living in paradise. This is the number that changes everything. Florida has the most expensive home insurance in the United States. Not one of the most expensive. The most expensive, by a wide margin. As of 2025, the average annual homeowners insurance premium in Florida hit $8,292, nearly double the national average. To put that in perspective, Florida's rates are nearly 12 times higher than Vermont, the cheapest state in the country for home insurance. 6 of the 10 most expensive cities for homeowners insurance in the entire United States are located in Florida. For many new residents, this is not a number they fully understood before they moved. They knew insurance would be higher. Florida has hurricanes after all. But they did not expect the bill to arrive and look like a second mortgage payment. They did not expect to be told by multiple insurers that their home simply was not coverable at any price. They did not expect the market to be this broken. And it is broken. Over the past decade, Florida's insurance market has been collapsing in slow motion. Insurer after insurer has either raised premiums to eye-watering levels, drastically restricted what they will cover, or pulled out of the state entirely. The state-backed insurer of last resort, Citizens Property Insurance, saw its policy count balloon to 1.4 million properties at its peak, because many homeowners had nowhere else to go. The reasons are layered. Frequent and intensifying hurricanes generate enormous claim payouts. But litigation abuse also played a major role for years, with bad faith lawsuits against insurers driving up costs across the board. Tort reforms passed in 2022 and 2023 have begun to stabilize the market, but the damage to household budgets is already done. Now add the housing cost explosion on top of that. Before the pandemic, the average Florida home sold for $253,000. By 2025, that number had surged to $375,000. In Tampa specifically, median housing costs shot from $298,000 to $478,000 in just 5 years. The people who moved to Florida because it was affordable compared to New York arrived to find that the affordability advantage had largely evaporated, but the insurance crisis, the heat bills, and the maintenance costs stayed right where they were. Here is what the math actually looks like for a middle-class family who bought a home in coastal South Florida in 2021. Mortgage payment on a $400,000 home, approximately $2,200 per month. Home insurance, $600 to $700 per month. Flood insurance, which standard policies do not cover and which is often required in coastal zones. Another $100 to $300 per month. Average electricity bill, $200 to $300 per month. That is before groceries, gas, or anything else. The no state income tax benefit. One of the central selling points of the Florida dream is being completely neutralized. For many families, it is not even close, and that is before a single hurricane makes landfall. Section 4. Infrastructure under pressure. Florida did not build itself for 22 million people. It built itself for 12 million, and then it tried to absorb another 2 million in the span of 5 years. The results are visible on every major highway at 7 in the morning. I-4 through Orlando, I-95 through Miami, US 1 through the Keys. Florida's road network was not designed for the population it now carries, and the investment needed to fix that gap is measured in decades, not years. New residents from the Midwest or the Northeast, who expected suburban life with manageable commutes, instead found themselves sitting in gridlock that rivals the worst of what they left behind in Chicago or New Jersey. The pressure on public services tells the same story. Emergency rooms, schools, water treatment systems, and public beaches are all operating over capacity in many parts of the state. Florida's population grew by nearly 2 million people between 2020 and 2025, the largest raw increase of any state in the country. Infrastructure does not scale that fast. Then there is the flooding. Florida is, geologically speaking, one of the most vulnerable pieces of land in the entire Western Hemisphere. The state sits on a foundation of porous limestone, barely above sea level, surrounded on three sides by the ocean. Sea levels around Miami have already risen approximately 6 inches since reliable measurement began. High tide flooding, sometimes called sunny day flooding, where streets flood on clear days simply because the tide is high, is no longer a rare event in coastal neighborhoods. It is a routine occurrence, and projections for what comes next are sobering. Florida ranks first in the entire country for critical infrastructure at risk of disruptive flooding by the end of this century. Roads, hospitals, power substations, water treatment plants, all of it sits in the crosshairs of a coastline that is slowly losing ground to the sea. The combination of overtaxed roads, overwhelmed services, disappearing green spaces, and a coastline under siege from rising water creates a feedback loop that accelerates everything else. The more people arrive, the worse the congestion gets. The worse the flooding gets, the higher the insurance goes. The higher the insurance goes, the more people leave. Which brings us to the trend that is quietly reshaping the American migration map right now. Section 5. The Great Migration Back North. There's a word for people who moved from the Northeast or Midwest to Florida, realized it was not what they expected, and then moved halfway back north to states like North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, or Virginia. The word is halfback. And the halfback trend is not a new phenomenon. It has been documented by demographers for decades. But right now, in 2025 and 2026, it is surging in a way that researchers have not seen before. What is new this time is who is leaving. The original halfbacks were mostly retirees, older couples who moved to Florida for the warmth and the lifestyle, and eventually decided the heat and the costs were more than they had bargained for. They sold their Florida homes and settled in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina or the foothills of Georgia, finding a climate that gave them mild winters without the 5-month summer inferno. That wave is still happening. In nearly every recent year, more residents aged 55 and over have moved from Florida to North Carolina than the reverse. But the new wave is different. As reported by the Wall Street Journal in April 2026, Florida is now exporting working-age, mid-career families, not just retirees. These are people in their 30s and 40s with children and careers who looked at what it would cost to own a home and raise a family in Tampa or Orlando or Miami and simply could not make the numbers work. One Georgia real estate company reported that Florida refugees now account for 3/4 of their sales. Entire subdivisions in the Carolinas and Tennessee are filling up with former Floridians who are half nostalgic, half relieved. The migration data tells the same story in raw numbers. Florida's net domestic migration, the single best measure of how many more people are moving in than out, collapsed by 93% from its peak. At the height of the COVID migration boom, Florida was gaining over 300,000 net new residents per year. By 2025, that number had fallen to 22,500. For context, that collapse is steeper than most stock market crashes. Miami-Dade County alone lost nearly 30,000 residents to domestic migration in a single year. Broward County lost over 15,000. These are not rounding errors. These are entire communities of people who came, tried, and left. The emotional toll is real and often underestimated. People who moved to Florida made a decision they were proud of. They told their friends and family, they posted the photos, they sold the idea of Florida to everyone they knew, admitting that it did not work, that the dream dissolved under the weight of insurance bills and unbearable summers and streets that flood on sunny days, carries a weight that is hard to overstate. Many people stay longer than they should simply because leaving feels like admitting failure. But the data is unambiguous. For a growing number of Americans, Florida is a magnificent place to visit. It is a much harder place to thrive. Section 6. The verdict. So is Florida still worth it? For some people, absolutely. If you are retired, debt-free, own your home outright, and have already factored in the insurance reality, Florida still offers genuine advantages. The weather outside of summer is exceptional. The natural environment, the springs, the Everglades, the Keys, is unlike anywhere else in the country. The cultural mix, the food, the energy of cities like Miami and Tampa is real and irreplaceable. For a certain kind of person in a certain financial position, Florida works. But for the average working family who moved there chasing the no income tax promise and the palm tree lifestyle, the ones who stretched their budget to afford the house, who did not fully account for what insurance would cost, who did not realize that the outdoor life they were moving to would be locked behind a wall of heat for 5 months a year. Florida has become a trap that is very easy to walk into and very expensive to walk back out of. The Sunshine State is not going anywhere. The beaches are still there, the sunsets are still spectacular. But the era of Florida as America's affordable paradise, the place where you could escape the cold and the taxes and build a better life for less, that era is over. What replaced it is a state where the costs are climbing, the risks are rising, and thousands of people every year are quietly loading the moving truck and pointing it north. If you found this video useful, subscribe to US GeoFacts for more deep dives into the geography, economy, and hidden realities of every state in America. Drop a comment below. Have you lived in Florida, or are you thinking about making the move? We want to hear your story, and if you know someone who is planning a Florida move right now, do them a favor and send them the video. The US is way crazier than you think. Subscribe for more insane state facts, and let's keep traveling together.